We should move on to the next match because that was also super exciting and created so many storylines. Gab, I've already listened secretly to some of what you had said about this match. Nicky, I know you have a special love for Venezia as well, and I know that you were very excited, much like me, to have Mourinho and all his drama back at Roma. And so this was an interesting game because not in a million years would you have told me the worst attack in Serie A would win 3-2 over Roma. And in fact, I actually had a little bet on this game and I thought for sure Roma would win it, especially with the fact that Shmurodov was starting. I was like, yay! Didn't go to plan. The defense fell apart. Mourinho's more dramatic than ever. Does he deserve his alibis? Because let's be honest, if we compare the number of points that Roma have collected this season to what Paulo Fonseca has done, Mourinho has done worse, both in comparison to Fonseca's first and his second season. And this is despite spending money that he says was there to just replace what was lost. So does Mourinho deserve a little bit more time, or is he just somebody who needs to win, so it's always going to be dramatic when he doesn't? I'll start off with you, Nicky.
I was now send it to Gab because I think Gab, from what you've suggested before we started, might have an opinion that is different to mine on this. I absolutely
I know, that's why
think,
I want him to come back on you.
I see how I'm being set up to be knocked down.
Yes!
I get it. It's okay. Gab's our guest. We can be nice to him. I absolutely think that Mourinho is at that point already that's really worrying me, where the excuses come so thick and fast, but the improvement does not. I think it's extraordinary, as you said, Mina, an attack that has not been scoring goals. Venezia, it's not just that they scored 3 goals, it's that they could have scored a couple more at the end of this game as well. They hit the bar twice at the end of this game. You know, there were some things, brief moments in this game where you thought, oh, that's good to see. Tammy Abraham's goal was really nice. He looked like exactly the striker that they thought they were getting early in the season, who hasn't been around in terms of performance so much in the last couple of games. But I just can't get over Mourinho's reaction to everything. I personally thought the Venezia penalty was a penalty. I understand there may be some suspicion of a push before the foul by Cristante, but to me, at least, the kick by Cristante on Caldara is a foul. And I think regardless of that, who are you trying to kid that Venezia are one of the powers of the division and that this is one of the teams that's got the referees helping it out? Venezia, who 2 weeks ago were literally republishing video of a penalty decision against them on Twitter to highlight how bad it was. I just think this narrative is so repetitive, it's ridiculous, and it's absolutely his fault that defense wasn't better.
Okay, over to you, Gab.
Well, look, it's 1 win in 7, right, in all competitions. And I have no problem pointing out or calling out Mourinho when he does and says stupid or unfair things, which occasionally he does, or when he makes mistakes. Like I did that. You know, I thought it was completely absurd what he said after the 6-1 against Bodo Glimt. As you know, I can criticize him. My main point was that in some ways this is the Mourinho of old, you know, with going after the referees and saying, I can't say anything, otherwise I need to protect myself, otherwise, you know, they'll suspend me, you know, and then he says stuff anyway. But in other ways, this is a different Mourinho because it's a different Roma. This Roma team, their faults, I think, have nothing to do with what we saw with Mourinho teams in his earlier stops at Spurs and at United, where people said, well, he's too negative, he's too defensive, not enough creativity, not enough attack. This Roma team attack all the time. They're distinctly, if anything, they're distinctly unbalanced. This does not look defensively like a Mourinho team. And again, making the big call of going with the 2 strikers plus El Shaarawy and so on. I mean, this is a team that it seems to me like as if Mourinho's well aware that in modern football, you can't play defend and counter. He just simply hasn't gotten the balance right. And maybe he'll get there, maybe he won't. But I think that's a big part of the reason why they've scored a fair bit and they've conceded a fair bit as well in most games. The other and so as a result, you get a team where obviously the philosophies are very different. But in the end, this feels a little bit like Fonseca's Roma in that they concede a lot of goals, they commit a lot of people forward, and they fail to beat the big teams. Because that's one point, too, to make. In those 7 games where he's won 1 in 7, well, in those games you have the derby, you have the Milan game. You've got games against some tough opponents as well. It's not like they were playing Venezia every week, right? So I think that goes to his defense a little bit. I guess most of it, you can't say it's the same old Mourinho. That part is only true for some things.
Sorry, I know that Nicky also wants to come back on this, but there is one thing that I'm going to say. I remember against Milan, they didn't have a shot on target in the first half, and it didn't come through until the 20th something minute in the second half is when Roma finally had a shot on target. I know that offensively they have lots of shots, but there doesn't seem to be an offensive scheme that isn't reliant entirely on Pellegrini doing something and coming up with something. And for me, I feel like, as Gazzetta dello Sport put it, and I thought I agreed so well, there's a creative constipation. I think that sometimes when they do face sides that close up.
Just before, I'm not saying that they're attacking well. I'm saying that they're attacking. They're attacking. He's brought this energy. He's brought this bravery, if you will, which maybe wasn't there before.
Naive is my point. I mean, this is
not naive. They've hit the woodwork 14 times this season, right? I just think it's not good. It's not where he wants it to be. It's not efficient. And ultimately, the point of the game is to create chances, and you can do it many different ways you want. They create lots of shots and commit people forward. So they're not there yet. But my point is, this is not something Mourinho has done before. Mourinho, we haven't seen Mourinho attack with so many men in one go. And I think in that sense, this is different. He feels like somebody who's trying to play differently and not quite getting there.
I'm really fascinated, Gab, though, by what you think about this in a greater sense, right? Because we're talking about someone who signed a 3-year contract. He's not supposed to be there for 5 minutes. He's supposed to be there for 3 seasons. He's getting about 9 million euros gross, I think, for the season, which in Serie A puts him, I can't even think who would be paid more than him in Serie A this season. I'm guessing Allegri.
No, Mourinho's
I'm not even sure if Allegri is actually.
Yeah, Mourinho's the highest paid coach in Serie A.
Yeah.
So are you not, given that you have an ownership who really aren't trying to do this to make the fans happy or to even do it for the reputation, you've got an ownership that was interested in Roma as a business proposition, really. Are you not worried about this? Are you not worried about the fact that the man you're spending all this money on is already, at this point in the season, torching the squad that he has? And he did it in a way where he phrased it in his press conference saying, okay, it's not the ownership's fault. But at the same time, torching his squad repeatedly, saying, I've only got 13 or 14 players that I can use, despite the fact that about 100 million euros was spent in the transfer window, and saying after this game, look, I'm not someone who constructs, I'm someone who reacts, I think his phrase was. This is not a good recipe for me. Like I'm not here trying to just completely trash Mourinho. I know it sounds like that, but I've actually been on this podcast at the beginning of the season expressing how excited I was to have Mourinho in Serie A. It's fun. It's fun having Mourinho around. Yeah, but
unless you're
the situation at Roma seems bad.
No, look, I don't think he was. I think the Friedkins haven't been particularly public or forthcoming with what their grand view is from any kind of, whether you want to use the term Moneyball or return on investment. Hiring Mourinho, I thought, made very little sense unless they're willing to go and spend a lot of money and give him the sort of tools that he's had in the past. On the surface, I think that seems obvious to me. But then look, I would have kept Paulo Fonseca, because I think he's a really, really good manager. That said, what I think is interesting and often gets missed because Mourinho is so polarizing is that he is trying to do the things differently. He has generated enthusiasm. It is only early November. Now, if Mourinho goes out, tantrums some more, and the Friedkins sit there and say, man, this guy's a colossal pain in the rear end, but, in for a dime, in for a dollar, we're committed to him for 3 years. It's going to cost us so much money. He's telling us to go and spend more money. All right, fine. Let's go find another 50 million under the sofa so we can go and spend it this January. Then he might get his way, and maybe he'll get the players he wants, and maybe he'll do well. But I'll tell you what, I don't think it's a great way to bring a project forward, which is why I wasn't against it. But now you're in there. You've committed. That ring is on the finger there. So you're kind of stuck. So you either cut your losses, which you're not going to do, or you proceed with this, even if it means, look, Zaniolo was benched. I don't think Zaniolo's been the problem. In fact, when I've seen Zaniolo play, that level of combination of physicality, energy, and quality that he brings, it gets me excited to see an Italy player like that. I haven't seen one in a long, long time. Now, I think I had, Zaniolo and Chiesa, and we're going to batter you with quality and muscle. Awesome. Then he goes and benches him. I don't know. Is this a one-off? Is he going to bench him again? Is he going to pick a fight with him just because he can? The way he did with Pogba? I don't know. And then this is the thing with Mourinho, is you don't know where you're going with this. But all that said, they've had a tough schedule. He's trying to do things differently. And I think those things need to be recognized. Is it enough? Is he living up to his wages or this team's potential? I genuinely don't think so. Not so far, but, let's weigh things up further on.
I mean, look, I have to agree with you. I think for me that I would have never sacked Paulo Fonseca. I mean, I really am excited that José Mourinho in Serie A, and by all means, I think I celebrated it more than I celebrated the 9 trophies with Juventus. But but for me, it is a question of, I could see the actual growth and the progression of the different players on an individual level, on a quality level, on a tactical level under Fonseca that I'm not seeing right now under José Mourinho. And for me, it's about striking the balance, fine. But I think defensively, they're shoddy, and attacking-wise, I think they don't have much of a clue going forward. Of course, like you said, this is the very beginning, and I am talking really fast because I have so much to try to cram in with all of this. But for me, I mean, it is a case of, you've finally given Schmorodov a chance, which he should have gotten a lot more earlier. Secondly, you've conceded 11 goals to Bodo Glimt and Venezia. This isn't, Milan and Inter when everyone was accusing Fonseca of not winning the big matches. You're actually conceding a number and a ton of goals against opponents that shouldn't be there. I don't see Villar at all being even mentioned. Borja Mayoral was scoring non-stop and he's not even being given chances. He talks about missing Juan Jesus and Bruno Perez. Are you freaking joking? So the question for me here is, Jesus Christ. So the question for me here is you want a guy and you want to build a project with him, but does he have the patience to build the project, or is he already angry that they're not winning? If he shows me that, he's all right with all of this and it's just about baby steps until we get there, then that's cool. But he's got to show me the value add. You have less points than what Fonseca managed. So what are you bringing to the plate other than just constant arguing? And yes, the referees haven't been great to you. Fine, I agree with that.